Hi, and congratulations on completing week one, Loss and Redemption, God's Temple City. It's been a pleasure to begin to get to know each of you, and I look forward to a great semester. I have a couple of comments on week one that I think will help as we move forward. I guess the first comment that I had before I get into the assignment is many of you are having trouble using Turabian footnotes, endnotes, and bibliography correctly. I would encourage everyone to take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to go online if you don't have a Turabian book, but to go online and look at what Turabian sources are. Some important components to that is footnotes and bibliography are very different formatting. One easy way to tell the difference is that footnotes have author's first name first, whereas bibliography has author's last name first. So be sure to look for the difference. Be sure to look for what is the appropriate use of ibid, what is the appropriate use for a short form footnote. All of these things in a master's level paper are expected. And I will be counting off significantly for poor formatting on footnotes. This is a researchy kind of academic course, and as such, and researchy is a technical term, I'm wanting you guys to be, or not guys, but folks to be precise about how you complete your footnotes. Secondly, be sure when you mention an author, the first time you mention an author, use the author's first and last name. So if you're talking about something out of Hess's textbook, then it would be Richard Hess states the first time you use the scholar's name in a paper. Those were some of the common things that I saw, but can be cleaned up very, very quickly. Now, as we look to assignment 1-1, looking at God's Temple City, you looked at Gordon Wenham and Alexander, two of your texts, actually an article and a text, and I wanted you to compare their view on the beginning of Genesis and this idea of God's Temple City. And I wanted a 4-page research paper that included not only references to Wenham and Alexander, but also had outside research in both commentaries and articles. Many of you did a great job on that. I liked some of the far-reaching citations. One came out of an African journal, which is fantastic. But continue to work on your research that's important. I wanted you to talk about how this theme impacted humanity before and after the initial sin of Adam and Eve, and where is the final hope for restoration of the Temple City. And I wanted you to also include some reflective comments on how the discussion might in fact impact the modern church. There were several ways that you might have approached the paper, but the classic way is to first review what does Alexander mean by his use of God's Temple City, and what does Wenham mean by his use, and that is a paragraph or two outlining and engaging with each of them and how they use this term. Wenham goes into multiple subpoints as to how the Temple City is understood, and I was looking for at least a brief mention of each of those subpoints. Once you move beyond an understanding of Alexander and Wenham, then I wanted you to move into the body of your paper where you're engaging with what commentaries have said after these two have written, and also what different journal articles see. And in doing that, you should have moved from the Old Testament and then into the book of Revelation, chapter 21, where we have a new heaven and a new earth and things are restored. And so what I was looking for there is that trajectory from Genesis 1, 2, and 3 through the fall until we see ultimately in Revelation the restoration of the fall and this idea of priesthood being restored. And I think that point of priesthood is another theme that I was looking for in your papers. is that God's temple city, the Garden of Eden, actually makes Adam and Eve priests, and we wanted to see that priesthood theme move through the Old Testament and into the New as well. So those were the primary points that I was looking for, and then in the conclusion, I wanted to see a contemporary application of your study, which sums up your master's into really a paper, which is a master's at Moody is accountable for research, it's accountable for analysis, it's accountable for summarizing what other scholars have written, and then finally it is accountable to take what you have learned hermeneutically and come out the other end with how do we apply it to God's people today. So what I was looking for in this paper is really what I'm going to be looking for in every paper. So kind of use this as a template for future assignments. All right, so then we had a discussion post. After a careful reading of Genesis 1:1-3, plus the reading out of Richard Hess, in around 300 words, post what you believe the creation account tells us about God's character. Now, an ideal post here is going to take one characteristic that you find and then really elaborate on that using reading out of Hess or reading out of other or engagement with other outside resources, and then adding your own personal understanding of what this characteristic or how this characteristic impacts your life. So in a discussion post, I'm wanting academic work, I'm wanting some discussion, and then finally I am wanting some personal reflection. On whole, folks did very well. The last piece that I think I've mentioned in a video already, I am really big on ongoing engagement and discussion over the weekend. Making one or two comments on Friday or Saturday and not revisiting the posts is not an A-level work for discussion. I'm looking for ongoing back and forth between students. It doesn't even have to be 100% topical, but I'm wanting you to engage and try to dig deeper into the material. So I was looking at that for our discussion. Okay, so rubrics and due dates are found under course resources. Class introductions, I think just about everybody, if not everybody, has already made an introduction in class. I really look forward to reading those. It helps me to understand your motives for, and not that they're bad motives, but to understand you better as to what you're wanting to gain from Moody. As always right now, the grading platform on Moody is down, and so I have to download each file in order to read what you've written on Word. So please be sure to put your name in the file, so if I download multiple at a time, I'm able to determine which one is yours. It just saves a second. I really look forward to a great semester, and feel free to email me or call me with any questions. Have a great day, and thanks for being part of the class and being part of Moody.